During the recent Affordability Committee meeting at the City Hall, two new developments were proposed. A mega mixed residential and non-residential project is proposed at the intersection of Essa Road and Mapleview Drive West. This project was first proposed by the previous owners and was said to have a total of 2,569 residential units. However, the new owners, Pearl Builders, have revised the initial application. The new proposal has a total of 1,217 residential units and around 3,500 square meter of non-residential uses. The proposed building heights now range from 3 to 12 stories, and the overall density is 156 units per hectare. The proposed development is divided into three distinct areas: the North Block, the South Block, and the Bear Creek Channel. The second proposed development at Wood Street and Essa Road includes two sites, one of which has historically been used for industrial purposes, and the other was the former Barrie Fairgrounds. The development plan includes 9 towers with 2,400 units, consisting of 5 residential towers and 4 mixed-use towers, as well as 42 townhouse units integrated into the podium. There will be 4 levels of podium parking and 1 level of underground parking. There will also be a total of 421 townhouse units, which will be 3 stories in height, and each unit will have 2 to 4 parking spaces. Both proposals are currently in the initial phases and will be reviewed and potentially approved in upcoming council meetings.
I will now call the Affordability Committee meeting to order. This meeting is being held in person and electronically in accordance with the Municipal Act. There are 2 public meetings being held this evening. If you are joining the meeting virtually and have not yet registered and wish to speak, please email cityclerks@barrie.ca or call 705-797-5353 and staff will send you the information required to participate virtually. Tonight's applications were submitted by the developer and deemed complete under the Planning Act to proceed with the public meeting. The first meeting is to review an application for an official plan amendment, zoning bylaw amendment, and draft plan of subdivision submitted by IBI Group on behalf of Pearl Builders for lands known municipally as 320 and 364 Mapleview Drive West and 664, 674, and 692 Essa Road. The second public meeting is to review the revised applications for a draft plan of subdivision, official plan amendment, and zoning bylaw amendment submitted by Innovative Planning Solutions, Inc. on behalf of Greenwood Construction, Inc. Diagram Developments for lands known municipally as 175, 199 Essa Road, and 50 Wood Street. Members of the Affordability Committee will be listening to the presentations and comments received during the public meetings, but will not be making comments or debating the items tonight. Committee members will have an opportunity to provide comments when the staff reports are considered by General Committee at a later date. Given that there may be a number of speakers this evening, those speaking are requested to keep their comments to no longer than 5 or 10 minutes, please. As the purpose of a public meeting is to provide the public an opportunity to give comments on the subject application, the ward councillor will have an opportunity to ask questions of staff and questions of clarification. This will allow them to ask questions on behalf of residents unable to attend the meeting. Other committee members, including myself, can ask questions of staff by email at any point before or after the meeting. Any questions asked by the public during the public meeting will be noted by staff and the applicants. Any responses to the questions will be addressed in the staff reports presented at a later date. Interested persons wishing notification of the staff report should sign the notification form required by the Legislative and Court Services Department located on the table at the back of the council chambers or email cityclerk@barrie.ca. For an update on the status of the application, staff and the developmental services have provided memorandums concerning the applications which are included with tonight's agenda package. More information can be found online on the city's website or by contacting the file manager directly. Carlissa McLaren, Manager of Planning, would you please confirm that the notifications were conducted in accordance with the Planning Act for the public meetings?
Yes, Chair Nixon, it was.
Thank you. I will now call upon Simon Yee of IBI Group, Inc. to provide the presentation concerning the official plan amendment, zoning bylaw amendment, and draft plan of subdivision for lands known municipally as 320 and 364 Mapleview Drive West and 664, 674, and 692 Essa Road.
Thank you very much. Can everyone hear me? Yeah. Okay. Good evening, members of committee and public in attendance tonight. I'm happy to see you all here on this rainy Wednesday evening. My name is Simon Yee from Arcadis IBI Group. I'm the planner for the proposed development of the lands at the northeast corner of Mapleview Drive and Essa Road. Tonight, I will be presenting our revised application for official plan and zoning bylaw amendments and our application for draft plan of subdivision. I'd like to start my presentation by acknowledging our project team who worked very hard to prepare our applications. They include Pearl Builders, who is the new developer and owner of the property, Arcadis IBI Group, Beacon Environmental, Tatum Engineering, Stribos, RWDI, GEI, and Junction Group, represented by Lynn Strawn behind me, who is here. Next slide. The subject site is located at the intersection of Mapleview Drive West and Essa Road within the Holly neighborhood in Ward 7. The site has a total lot area of 10.2 hectares and is a compilation of 5 municipal addresses with 419 meters of frontage along Mapleview and 367 meters of frontage on Essa Road. The majority of the site is undeveloped and underutilized, with 2 vacant single detached dwellings and a takeout restaurant establishment near the southwest corner. The site also has a portion of Bear Creek traversing through the center from east to west. The site is surrounded by Holy Spirit Parish Church to the north, Mapleview Community Church to the east, a mix of low-rise commercial, retail, industrial, and institutional uses to the south, commercial retail and low-rise residential neighborhood to the west. In addition to its immediate surrounding amenities, the site is well connected to major public transportation infrastructure, which provide direct access to many local and regional destinations, making this site a prime location for intensification and mixed-use development. Mapleview and Essa are both major arterial roads with frequent bus service, having direct access to Highway 400 and 2 GO train stations in the city of Barrie. Essa Road going north, as you can see, connects with Barrie's downtown area, which includes all the amenities and services within Barrie's urban growth center, such as the Allendale Waterfront GO Station and Kempfelt Bay Waterfront. As such, the city of Barrie identifies Essa Road as a secondary intensification corridor, which are areas planned for higher density and mixed-use development. Some approved and proposed redevelopments along Essa Road already include townhouses and mid-rise buildings. As some members of the committee and public may recall, back in 2020, the previous applicant made the initial submission for official plan and zoning bylaw amendment applications. And they also held their public meeting on December 15th, 2020. So tonight we're holding the second public meeting for this project as recommended by planning staff and serves as providing the committee and the public our update on the existing applications based on comments and feedback received from staff and the public after the first public meeting. To refresh your memories a little, as you can see, the 3D rendering here was taken from the previous applicant's planning justification report, illustrating the previous proposal of a high-density mixed-use development with residential, retail, office, community, and institutional uses, and also a road network that included a proposed channel crossing. The proposal included a total of roughly 2,500 residential units and approximately 28,000 square meters of non-residential GFA within 12 mixed-use buildings ranging in heights from 1 to 27 stories. And in the spring of 2022, the current owner and developer Pearl Builders acquired the subject site and proceed to continue advancing and updating the existing applications. After taking this on, Pearl Builders and the project team had the benefit of learning from the previous submission. This helped us understand the issues and concerns raised by staff and the public, so we could better determine the public interest and develop a new master plan that appropriately addresses the comments and feedback received. This can be divided into the following major themes, as you can see in the slide: height and density, traffic, Bear Creek realignment and protection, stormwater management, parks and amenity space, and community services. Also, in forming the project's new vision and master plan, we conducted further consultations with city staff, Councillor Harvey, Deputy Mayor Ward, MVCA staff, Mapleview Community Church, and an active member of a local neighborhood resident group. This led us to developing our master plan guiding principles, which reimagines the vision to guide our revised proposal, starting with be a good neighbor by introducing a built form and density that's compatible with the surrounding community and existing context. Number 2, enhance, repair, and maintain Bear Creek by creating a naturalized channel corridor and providing the required environmental buffers. Number 3, create a prominent gateway into the city by recognizing Mapleview and Essa as a prominent gateway intersection. Number 4, build a complete community that's compact, transit supportive, and walkable to neighborhood amenities. Number 5, provide diversity of housing by building a mix of homes ranging in sizes and types. And finally, number 6, develop an identity by creating a strong sense of place and community through the design of amenity spaces, streetscapes, and buildings. So here it is, our proposed master plan. The proposal seeks to create a vibrant mixed-use, complete community that provides a diverse range of housing options for a growing community and city. The master plan proposes a medium-density mixed-use development with a total of 1,217 residential units and 3,476 square meters of non-residential GFA, primarily fronting onto Mapleview Drive. The proposed overall density is 156 units per hectare, and building heights range between 3 to 12 stories. The proposed development is divided into 3 distinct areas: the North Block, the South Block, and the Bear Creek Channel Corridor, which bisects the site. Starting with the proposed North Block, it includes 464 units consisting of 55 street townhouses, 390 stacked back-to-back townhouses, and 19 live-work towns. The 3-story street townhouses are located on the north and south edges with front-facing garages and driveways. The 4-story live-work townhouses are fronting along Essa Road, I'm shown in blue, with garages and driveways at the rear. On-street lay-by parking spaces on Essa Road are proposed directly in front of the live-work units to support the potential for at-grade commercial and office uses. The live-work units introduce opportunity for small-scale neighborhood commercial uses on the ground floor to activate the street and give Essa Road the look and feel of a village main street that can serve local residents. This is pretty consistent with the planned urbanization of Essa Road as described in the city's intensification corridor study. The 4-story stacked back-to-back towns in orange are in the center, providing the majority of the density in the North Block. Resident parking is provided in a single-level underground parking garage with access from Holly Home Farm Road on the east side of the property. The mix of townhouses typologies provide diversity and choice for future residents who may not want or be able to live in single detached homes, but still want a family-sized unit with open spaces. The townhouses provide that missing middle housing and is compatible with adjacent low-rise communities. From the comments, city staff was not so supportive of having any public roads here, so all proposed roads are private and no roads cross the channel. The network of 4 private roads, internal walkways, and sidewalks provide connectivity throughout the site and allow for on-street parking for visitors and residents. Holly Home Farm Road extension connects with Private Road A to the north, which intersects with Essa Road, making the only new intersection along this stretch of Essa Road. Outdoor amenity spaces for the residents are provided through a mix of private backyards, shared open spaces within a courtyard setting, private balconies, and terraces for stacked townhouse units. So in this artistic rendering, you can see a shared open space in one of the courtyards framed by the 4-story stacked townhouses. To the proposed south block. The south block has the most density and heights, consisting of 4 mid-rise buildings ranging from 6 to 12 stories, comprising of a total of 753 residential units, 2,661 square meters of retail GFA, and 815 square meters of potentially a library and community use. The building heights start at 6 stories at Essa Road, then goes to the highest point at 12 stories before tapering down to 10 and 8 stories toward Holly Home Farm Road. The buildings at the furthest east and west points offer a mix of commercial retail and non-residential uses, such as the library or potential daycare on the ground floor to serve existing and future residents. By activating the ground floor here, the intent is to create a vibrant pedestrian-oriented main street along Mapleview Drive. Higher density and building heights are located along Mapleview Drive because it has the least amount of impact on the stable low-rise neighborhood to the west of Essa. And it is also a major arterial road, as mentioned before, consisting of largely employment, commercial and institutional uses to the east with direct access to transit and Highway 400. From a transportation perspective, vehicle access will be limited to the existing signalized intersection at Holly Home Farm Road and a new mid-block intersection proposed as only right in and right out as noted in the city's comments. Parking will be provided in underground and above ground level garages, which will not be visible from the public street and hidden at the rear along Private Road D. In addition, the intersection of Mapleview and Essa is recognized as a prominent gateway intersection in the city. To define this gateway, the proposal introduces a publicly accessible open space called a promenade. It's flanked by the 6 and 12-story mixed-use mid-rises with commercial retail at grade to animate the promenade and create that sense of place in the community. The promenade also provides a frame view corridor of Holy Spirit Parish Church, visually connecting the site with its surrounding amenities. And here you will see a rendering at Mapleview Drive West, looking north through the promenade, and you can see the church's bell tower in the distance. All right, next up is the proposed channel corridor. The proposed Bear Creek Channel Corridor is a large natural and landscape area within the center of the proposed development, providing sufficient separation and buffer between the low-rise townhouse development to the north and the mid-rises in the south. The channel corridor is proposed to be 63 meters wide to satisfy the NVCA requirement to have a minimum 30-meter buffer on either side of the creek. The channel corridor design enhances, preserves, and protects Bear Creek while providing capacity for stormwater management. The 63-meter width includes a 47-meter wide environmental protection zone centered along the creek and an 8-meter wide open space area on either side for stormwater management facilities. So through a collaborative effort with our project team, the city and NVCA staff, the proposed channel corridor design was accepted in principle with the understanding that the 47-meter wide EP zone would be conveyed to the city of Barrie. So in this rendering, it's a view from a balcony on the north side of one of the proposed mid-rise buildings. It shows how the channel corridor is integrated into the development. And also you may notice that the height and density of the townhouse units transition pretty well to the low rise on the west side and is pretty sensitive to the low rise neighborhood. Now onto the policy context. Here in this slide, you'll see mainly the municipal policy context, but as you may know, planning in Ontario follows a top-down approach, looking at provincial policy to guide the development applications. So starting with the provincial policy statement, the proposal is consistent with the key policy directions, as the proposal promotes an efficient use of land and intensification within a settlement area. It improves the supply and range of housing options, and it redevelops underutilized lands with existing municipal services and infrastructure. The proposal also conforms to the provincial growth plan by promoting a mixed-use neighborhood to foster complete communities, and it provides a mix of housing types, land uses, employment opportunities, and a compact built form that supports walking, cycling, and transit. The growth plan projections have the city of Barrie growing to a population of 298,000 by 2051, more than double the current Barrie population. And more recently, as a result of Bill 23, the More Homes Built Faster Act, the city of Barrie pledged to the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing to facilitate the construction of 23,000 housing units by 2031. So this proposal can help the city achieve those targets through residential intensification of these urban lands, and also providing a diversity of housing required to add to the city's housing supply for accommodating this projected growth. Now onto the municipal policy context with the official plan. So pending approval of the new official plan, the subject lands are currently designated general commercial and general industrial under the current in effect City of Barrie official plan. As such, the proposed development of the subject site requires an official plan amendment to redesignate the site to residential, open space, and environmental protection to permit the proposed mix of the land uses. The city's new council adopted official plan designates the subject site as medium density. As per the new official plan, developments in the medium density designation are encouraged to be mixed use, should be between 6 to 12 stories in height, and have a density of 125 to 300 units per hectare. It also notes that if the minimum density can be met, building heights less than 6 stories may be permitted. So with that, the current proposal conforms with the medium density land use designation of the new official plan. So the proposed official plan amendment, if approved, would bring the proposal into conformity with the policies of the new official plan. The site's existing zoning is general commercial and general industrial. So to facilitate the proposed development, the site seeks to rezone the lands to multiple residential second density, mixed use corridor, environmental protection, and open space. Site specific provisions are also requested for height, density, setbacks, parking, and landscape open space. So this slide briefly describes the applications we submitted to the city on December 20th, 2022. This slide shows the draft plan of subdivision we submitted to create 2 mixed-use blocks, which would be developed through site plan control, along with 2 open space blocks and an environmental protection block, which would be conveyed to the city of Barrie. The first phase of development will be the construction of the channel corridor, followed by the north and south blocks. This slide shows a list of the reports and drawings submitted in support of our new proposal. Just to note, we received city comments from various departments on our second submission already, which have generally expressed staff support for the new proposal. Our intent is to have our response to city comments in a third submission to the city in April. Okay, this slide provides some summary points that I've already mentioned, so I won't read them all, but I will just say the city of Barrie is experiencing substantial growth to meet provincial projections. The proposed development aims to transform the site by creating a complete community with a mix of uses and providing the housing required to contribute to the city's housing supply to accommodate the growth. The proposed development is consistent with policies contained in the provincial policy statement and conforms with the policies of the growth plan and the city of Barrie new official plan. It is in our opinion that the proposed amendments to the official plan and zoning bylaw represent good planning and are in the public interest. So accordingly, we recommend approval of the applications. That is the end of my presentation. I may now take any questions from the public and committee members. Thank you all for listening.
Thank you very much, Mr. Yee. I will now call upon Andrew Gamiro, Senior Planner, to provide an update on the status of the application.
Good evening, Chair Nixon, Mayor Nuttall, members of the Affordability Committee, and the public. Further to Mr. Yee's presentation, please be advised that planning staff and our technical review team are currently still completing the review process associated with this application. As Mr. Yee advised, we're expecting a resubmission, which will go through another round of technical review. And in addition to the memo provided to the Affordability Committee this evening, I will be providing an update regarding the status of the application, identifying any comments that have been received from members of the public to date, as well as highlighting the key planning and land use matters that are being considered by planning staff and our technical review team at this time. Just for a bit of background information, Mr. Yee touched on it, but a neighborhood meeting was held on September 22nd, 2020, followed by a public meeting on December 15th of 2020 regarding the original development proposal that was submitted by the previous owners. I just wanted to highlight some of the comments that were raised by members of the public at that meeting. Those included primarily concerns with increased traffic and impacts to pedestrian safety along Essa Road and Mapleview Drive, and also concerns regarding the proposed increases in density and height, along with the parking reductions that were being proposed at that time. Given, as Mr. Yee, noted, given the time that lapsed since the first submission, as well as the change in ownership of the property and the significant revisions to the development proposal, planning staff recommended that the applicant go through a second round public review process just to present the new proposal to the Affordability Committee and members of the public, and provide an opportunity for the committee and the public to provide additional feedback before we move forward. I just wanted to, as I mentioned earlier, the applications are currently under review still by planning staff and the city's technical review team. That process is ongoing as we expect a resubmission. The Nottawasaga Valley Conservation Authority is also reviewed and that is involved in that review process. And an analysis of the application will be provided at a later date following the review process once a staff report is brought forward for general committee's consideration. At this time, the primary planning and land use matters being considered by staff and our technical review team include firstly justification for the requested changes to the official plan, as well as the appropriateness of the site-specific provisions being sought through the zoning bylaw amendment to facilitate the project. Also consideration of site integration, including connectivity to surrounding developments such as existing and proposed developments along the south side of Mapleview Drive East. I understand some comments were received with respect to driveway alignments. It's something that has been brought to staff's attention, and we will be working to address that moving forward and facilitating discussions between the property owners. We're also looking to have discussions with Mapleview Community Church in hopes that the applicant can establish a mutual access agreement with them to utilize the signalized intersection and any associated service infrastructure, just to allow for proper traffic operations given the magnitude of this development. We're also looking at ensuring the establishment of an appropriate buffer and implementation of mitigation measures to ensure the long-term health and function of the Bear Creek tributary, which runs through the central portion of the property in an east-west direction. We're also looking at integration of the proposed development concept with the surrounding neighborhood and conformity with the overall envisioned development pattern for the Mapleview Drive and Essa Road area. Further on, we're also looking for confirmation that the proposed development can be supported by existing and or planned municipal services and infrastructure, and the applicant has submitted a functional servicing report in that respect, which is under review by the city's approvals branch as well as our infrastructure services department, just given future plans post 2031 to improve Essa Road in the long term. We're also looking at impacts that the development may have on traffic operations and pedestrian safety. And the applicant has submitted a transportation impact study, which is under review, and some comments have been provided. And again, we're awaiting a resubmission in response to those comments. And finally, staff want to ensure that the proposed density of the development is appropriate and won't jeopardize the overall and long-term functionality of the project, just as it relates to providing some key items such as sufficient parking and loading areas, indoor and outdoor amenities, landscaping, snow storage areas, your waste collection and storage facilities, proper access into and also egress out of the site. And finally, ensuring that there's a strong and safe pedestrian network of walkways. So that's really the key items that we're considering at this moment through our review. Just wanted to highlight those. With respect to the next steps in the process, planning staff are going to continue the technical review process. We anticipate there will likely be some back and forth with the applicant, potentially some discussions needed with adjacent landowners. We'll work through that. And if all goes well, we're targeting hopefully the second or third quarter of 2023 to bring a staff report forward for general committee's consideration. And all the comments received through that technical review process, as well as comments received through the public engagement processes, will be identified and addressed in that staff report and form part of staff's recommendation on these applications. And that really concludes my presentation for this evening. Thank you, Chair Nixon, Mayor Nuttall, members of the Affordability Committee, and the public. I'm happy to answer any questions of clarification and to hear from members of the public. And before I sign off quickly, I just want to note that all of the submission material, key dates associated with these applications, as well as my contact information, is available on the city's proposed developments webpage under Ward 7. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gamiro. We have one member of the audience which would like to speak, and at this point, I will now invite Mr. Doug Lougheed to the podium. Please state your address for the records.
Thank you, Chair Nixon. Doug Lougheed, 1510 33 Ellen Street in Barrie, Ontario. I just wish to make a few comments in relation to the historical context of the application. I'm speaking to you as a, I guess, a Holly expert in the sense that my family was one of the original settlers in the Holly area. I'm a fifth generation Holly resident or Holly person, with my fifth great grandfather settling there in 1842. So our property was actually right across the road from just immediately south of the proposed of this development property. As you're aware, Holly was part of the former township of Innisfil and annexed into the city in 1981. This specific property was originally owned by the Dyer family, George Dyer, 1861 to 1937, until the late 1920s, when his sons Elmer and his older brother Morley took over the farming operation and promptly named it Elmore Farm, E-L-M-O-R. Elmore Farm operated as a dairy farming operation, milking about 20 registered Holstein cattle. The Holstein herd was all registered with the prefix name of Elmore as part of the registration and production record processes for Holstein Canada. Elmer married Gladys Shrigley in 1936, and Gladys's grandfather, Malin Shrigley, was actually the first settler in Holly in 1840. And the farm she grew up on was called Mapleton, which is where Mapleton Drive is currently today. She taught at Holly School in the late 1920s up until about the time she got married in 1936. After 1936, when she was married to Elmer, Gladys, Elmer, and Morley operated Elmore until 1965, when Morley passed away, and they retired to Barrie and was sold to the Williams family. In recognition and in respect to the early settlers of the Holly area, I'm requesting that the street names on the subject property of this application be considered. Note there's already a Dyer Road in the city of Barrie South End, so that's not in the picture. Elmore, I'm proposing something along the lines of Elmore Street Avenue Road, which was the Dyer Farm name for this property. This is consistent with the Holly area street names, and I refer to Mapleton, earlier, which Mapleton Farm was where Mapleton Avenue is, and Holly Home Farm was the name of the farm that I grew up on. And as was referred to in the applicant's presentation, Holly Home Farm Road borders the east side of the property. Alternatively, maybe names of Elmer, Morley, or Gladys streets, roads, avenues, etc. could be considered. I don't believe there is any such names in the city of Barrie from the Google search that I did. So that's all I have. I submitted some comments earlier today. I'm sorry I didn't read about it until this morning. So I put my research skills together and got some information about the area, and hopefully that the council and planning staff down the road and the applicant will consider the historical aspect of the property. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Light. I'm just going to confirm with the clerk that we have no guests waiting virtually. Correct. Okay, great. I'm going to ask Ward 7 Councillor Harvey, do you have any questions or clarification you'd like to add?
Yeah, thank you, Chair Nixon. And obviously it's good to see so many people are here. Apparently they're not here for this application though. But it does provide a little bit of normalcy, because all too often we're sitting here in an empty gallery other than the night that we were sworn in. So it is good to see that there is interest in what's going in our city. And moving forward, just a couple of quick questions, and actually I'll touch on Mr. Lougheed's comments that were just made to the applicant or city staff, because I believe it is city staff that will ultimately decide these street names, even though they are private roads. Are these street names that were suggested, can we assure Mr. Lougheed that they will be in consideration?
Through you, Chair Nixon, to Councillor Harvey, we can certainly look at the municipal naming registry to see if those names have already been assigned or selected. If not, then we can look at adding them to that registry, and ultimately through discussions with yourself as the ward councillor, we can look at potentially naming those with consultation with the applicant as well when the application comes forward for site plan approval.
Great, thank you. I'll start my first few questions though, just for the applicant. When it comes to the north and the south half, I understand from earlier discussions that I've had with your representatives that the north section where the townhouses are will be developed first, and that the south portion where the apartment buildings are going to be will be the second part of the construction. First, when do you anticipate, if things go ahead as planned, when would you anticipate that construction would start here?
Through you and Chair Nixon to Councillor Harvey, the short answer is as soon as possible. I know that the first phase of this development is to construct the channel corridor. So that would be the first phase. And as soon as that corridor is completed to a level that is acceptable, and if we have site plan approval, it'll be shovels in the ground right away, and we'll be applying for building permits like ASAP.
Great, thank you. And I would also like to thank you for this revised application, because it is dramatically different than the small city that the previous applicant wanted to build here. And I do appreciate all the consultation that was done leading up to today, because I know from speaking to a few of my residents, they actually felt like they were heard. And I know with my discussions, I actually felt like some of the stuff that I had mentioned too really did impact what was presented here today. The one thing that I'm wanting a little clarity on is the Bear Creek Channel section of it. Now, in the images that were provided here today, I don't see any fencing or anything like that. What I would like to know is, what is the plan for this area? Because I know historically we tend to fence off these areas that have water related to them, whether it's a water retention pond and creeks and stuff. And also to, if there was any connectability between the two halves considered, whether it's one or two walking pedestrian bridges, especially because the condos at the south end are going to have lower level shops and things there. So that way people that are in that north half wouldn't have to get into their vehicles and could either walk or ride their bike to go pick up a bag of milk or something along those lines.
Through you, Chair Nixon, to Councillor Harvey. Thank you for that question, and that's a great comment. When we designed our master plan, we anticipated or were envisioning some pedestrian connections to connect both the north and the south blocks. However, city comments and city requirements do have like a fencing bylaw that would require, I believe, a 1.5 or 1.8 meter high chain link fence to kind of protect the creek. So that is something that we had to abide by, and we did not propose any sort of connection because of that requirement. But we are open to exploring opportunities to connect both the north and south blocks through pedestrian connections.
Great, thank you. Yeah, regardless of the fence being there, I still think there's an opportunity to have that connectability. And obviously the fence would have to go up to the edge of the beginning of the bridge, but just to have that discussion moving forward would be great, because I really think it helps keeping the two halves, because it is a very divided parcel of land with the creek in the middle. At least it blends those two halves together and creates connectability, opposed to people having to take a long walk out to Holly Home, back down and around, which really doesn't make sense. I got a feeling people are jumping in cars if they got to do that. The other question I have is in regards to the parking on Essa Road in regards to the live work units. You mentioned that there was going to be some on-street parking, and I counted 19 live work units. How many parking spots are you anticipating to be out on the edge of Essa Road to be able to service those live work units?
Through you, Chair Nixon, to Councillor Harvey, thank you for that question. I don't have the plans in front of me, but I think we are anticipating maybe 8 or 9 spaces in front of Essa Road. I'll have to take a look and see how many there actually are, but we were thinking that those spaces would be very temporary, short-term parking spaces that can service the ground-related either retail or commercial uses on the live work units. It's not meant to be like long-term parking. There is also an abundance of visitors parking on street within the development on the private streets. So if those on-street parking spaces on Essa Road were to fill up, there's always opportunity to go into the property to park on the private roads.
Okay, great. And one other thing that's come up as a concern in one of my older subdivisions that were just built is the community spaces. When construction is occurring, do you anticipate that you'll be building these community spaces at the time of construction, opposed to people having nowhere for their kids to play for, let's say, 1 to 2 years after they move into their townhouse?
Through you, Chair Nixon, and to Councillor Harvey. It's a tough question to answer at this time because we are very early in the process. That is something that we can explore when we do go through the detailed design and the construction management plan during the site plan approval process. But that is something that we can definitely consider moving forward.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Because it has caused a little bit of conflict at our Bear Creek subdivision at Essa and Salem, because the condos have their own separate park and there's no park for the rest of the subdivision as of yet. So definitely something to keep in consideration. Given that, those are all my questions, and I do thank you for your application and the fact that it does meet the mid-density of our new official plan. Much happier to see 12-story buildings coming instead of 27-story buildings. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Yee and Councillor Harvey. If anyone has any further written comments, you can submit them to Andrew Gamiro in the Development Services Department at andrew.gamiro, that's Gameiro at barrie.ca. Before we move into the second public meeting, I am going to call upon Councillor Kunkel, who
Yes,
Go
thank
ahead.
you. I do have a pecuniary interest with the next development. I am a member of the Barrie Curling Club and have relationship around events. So I did speak with the Integrity Commissioner. While I am a non-voting member of this committee, I am able to remain at the table. And as only the councillor in this format would be of the ward would be speaking to the development, I am also removed from either debating, voting, or influencing the vote. So we'll remain here, but we'll remain a non-participant in any of the following matters pertaining to this development.
Thank you very much. I will now call upon James Hunter of Innovative Planning Solutions concerning the official plan amendment, zoning bylaw amendment, and draft plan of subdivision for lands known municipally as 175 and 199 Essa Road and 50 Wood Street. Mr. Hunter.
Good evening, Mayor Nuttall, members of council, city staff, and the public in attendance tonight. My name is James Hunter, and I'm an associate with Innovative Planning Solutions here in Barrie. Tonight, we're representing Green World Construction, Inc., who is an established developer and builder with over 25 years of successful projects. We are pleased to be here tonight on behalf of the applicant for official plan amendment, zoning bylaw amendment, and draft plan applications for lands located at 175 and 199 Essa Road and 50 Wood Street in the city of Barrie. The applications pertains to two properties, which will be referred to as the Woodlands and the Essa lands throughout our presentation. The Wood Street lands include an area of 10.7 hectares with existing site access and frontage along Wood Street. The lands are currently vacant and have been historically utilized for industrial uses. Hodges Creek currently runs through the lands, and the future is part of a comprehensive realignment plan to improve the health of the system. The Essa lands include a site area of 11.7 hectares with frontage along Essa Road and Ann Street South. The existing site access is provided off Essa Road, and the lands are currently vacant except for the Barrie Curling Club, which does have a 99-year lease to 2051. The lands are known also as their former use as the Barrie Fairgrounds. The subject lands are uniquely positioned at the intersection of Highway 400 and Essa Road. For further context, the lands are defined by the Barrie-Collingwood rail line to the north, Ann Street to the east, Essa Road to the south, and Highway 400 to the west. An established residential area is located to the north of Essa lands, part of the Allendale neighborhood. Various commercial uses are also located along Essa Road, which provides everyday services. The site is also well positioned in respect to transit, with convenient access to local and regional transit systems, including Barrie bus routes located along Essa Road, and the Allendale Waterfront GO station approximately 1 kilometer to the east, which is a 15-minute walk or 6-minute bike ride. There are 6 parks located within approximately 1 kilometer of the site, including Blair Park with residential within the residential neighborhood adjacent to the north. And through our subject development, we are proposing a pedestrian connection to the park, which is approximately a 3-minute walk. There are 3 schools located approximately 1 kilometer of the subject lands, including St. John Vianney, Allendale Heights Public School, and Innisdale Secondary School. Further, the Lake Simcoe waterfront is located approximately 1.1 kilometers, and this does have access to active recreational trails, public spaces, community gathering opportunities. The City of Barrie official plan designates the Woodlands as Highway 400 Industrial, which is shown in blue, and General Commercial for the Essa land shown in pink. The lands are further included along a primary intensification corridor, which is Essa Road. The City of Barrie did adopt a new official plan in February 2022, which is pending approval by the province. In the adopted official plan, the lands are within a strategic growth area and located along intensification corridor. As well, the Essa lands are designated high density and the woodlands are designated as medium density in the new draft official plan. Regarding zoning, the subject lands are currently zoned as highway industrial and general commercial. The proposal does represent an opportunity to develop a significant parcel of underutilized lands within the city of Barrie at the prominent location of Highway 400 and Essa Road. The 22.4 hectares of land holdings provides an opportunity to substantially contribute to the city of Barrie's housing stock and provide for development to take place in a comprehensive and cohesive manner, all on lands where intensification is encouraged. The master plan has been developed by strategically placing the highest densities towards intensification corridors, of Essa Road and at the location of Highway 400. This is to provide a belt form that provides an appropriate transition and stepping between land uses to the north. Collectively, the proposed development shown on the slide would facilitate 2,828 residential units, including 421 townhome units in freehold and condo tenure, as well as 2,407 condo units incorporated into 9 high-rise towers. So on the subject slide, what you're seeing is the master plan with each use defined by color code. The purple defines the street townhomes in freehold and condominium tenure located internally to the site. The dark pink depicts the high-rise residential buildings, which are located along Highway 400. And the light pink illustrates the mixed-use residential buildings with commercial uses located along Essa Road. The blue outlines the open space block to the north, where stormwater management facilities and Hodges Creek are located. And the green represents landscape open space amenity areas, which does include green rooftop terraces and elevated amenity spaces on the high-rise buildings. Pedestrian sidewalks are also proposed along the internal municipal streets, with a pedestrian connection trail along the western boundary of the site, which runs from the high-rise blocks to the open space block at the north, offering active outdoor amenity space. Working with the MTO, a 14-meter setback has been incorporated along Highway 400, and further tree protection zones are implemented between the subject site and the existing residential properties to the north, with efforts of preserving healthy boundary trees. Regarding the high-rise design, we have 9 high-rise towers proposed with 2,407 residential units. So it's 5 residential towers with strictly residential uses, as well as 4 mixed-use towers splitting the residential units for the site. 12 to 35 stories in height are proposed, framing the intersection of Highway 400 and Essa Road. Incorporated into the high-rise units are 42 townhouse units at a 2-story built form, which are located internal to the podium, providing transition to the medium density townhouse blocks internal to the site. Collective GFA of just under 194,000 is proposed, which does include just under 3,000 meters square of retail space, which is integrated into the mixed-use buildings along Essa Road, which is shown over on this slide here. And within that, there's 4 levels of parking podium and 1 level included in underground for a total of 5 levels of parking podium. Within the parking podium, we have 1 space per unit for the condos. We have dedicated commercial spaces for the commercial units. We have dedicated barrier-free spaces, as well as they are offering secure bicycle parking rooms to encourage active transportation. For the townhouse design, we have 421 townhouse units proposed, including 106 units in freehold tenure and 315 units in condo tenure. The subject slide demonstrates the proposed variety of townhouse units by product type. So what you're seeing are the yellow units defined by back-to-back. Then the street townhouse units are shown in blue and green, providing the transition to the existing neighborhood to the northeast. The street townhouse units under condo tenure are distributed across the site, and that's illustrated by purple and light green. And red defines the rear lane townhouse units with frontage along the proposed municipal roads. The conceptual units are designed at 3 stories in height with substantial living spaces for the desired unit types. And all townhouse units will offer private balconies for amenity space outdoors. Generous rear yards are also provided for the street townhouse units, providing amenity space for the residents. And 2 to 4 parking spaces are provided with additional visitor spaces incorporated within shared parking areas. The townhouse blocks are accessed by public roads and common laneways. So these are the public municipal roads that we're referring to around the perimeter of the site, and then the internal laneways to access the condo units are provided. For site amenities, there are a diversity of site amenities proposed as highlighted on the subject slide. This includes the parking podium, which encompasses indoor amenity areas, including common lobbies, lounges, party rooms, and dedicated amenity space for residents. There are green roof terraces provided above the parking podium with common connections, walking paths, gathering spaces, and outdoor amenities, which you're seeing on the slides here at the green, connecting between the buildings. And rooftop amenity spaces are also located on the podium, which offers shared outdoor amenities and gathering spaces as well. On top of that, there's a public pedestrian trail which widens through the development proposal, forming active amenity space, and a multi-use path and sidewalks are incorporated throughout the site for pedestrian movements. Private balconies are also offered for each condo and townhouse unit, And further, the commercial retail provided integrates an active pedestrian streetscape along Essa Road, and it will service not only the residents of the site, but also the public. To highlight site circulation and transit for the subject development, 3 access points are proposed for the site with connections from Essa Road to the south, Ann Street to the east, and Wood Street to the north. Primary traffic is directed to Essa Road with a secondary right in, right out at Ann Street. Minimal traffic is directed to Wood Street as traffic is directed to Essa Road where it can be accommodated and where residents will seek to utilize intensification corridor access for Highway 400, the downtown and other areas of the city. A signalized intersection is proposed for the site at the intersection of Essa Road and our lands to provide controlled traffic movements, which is highlighted here. Internal to the site, municipal streets are proposed for site circulation with public sidewalks shown in pink, and a 3.5 meter multi-use path is proposed along the municipal streets, which will encourage active transportation such as cycling connections. And that is the dark purple you're seeing here with the sidewalks in pink. The active pedestrian trails also illustrated in green connecting to the open space block to the north. And there's active connections proposed between the high-rise buildings, which connects the high-rise blocks to the internal streets, and then also further through the high-rise blocks to Essa Road. So this does facilitate pedestrian movements along with direct connections through the high-rise blocks. And existing transit can be utilized along Essa Road with further connections provided by the site and active pedestrian connections. In regard to infrastructure upgrades, the applicant is working with the city to contribute their share. And ultimately, this will be implemented for any upgrades into details of ongoing work through master plans and programs with the city of Barrie. To facilitate the master plan shown, the lands are subject to a draft plan of subdivision application in order to permit the future subdivision of the lands into the desired lots and blocks. Each intended use has been divided into desired blocks as shown on the draft plan here. The townhouse uses are maintained in the purple blocks, and the high-rise uses are maintained in the light pink and dark pink blocks. The existing curling club is to remain as a feature of the development illustrated in yellow, and landscape buffers are provided in green. The open space and stormwater management block is preserved in the area to the north. And it's important to note that the City of Barrie and the MTO road widenings have been accommodated into our development plan, and we intend to continue working with both parties through the application process. To support the proposed development, amendments are required to the City of Barrie official plan and zoning bylaw. The official plan amendment seeks to redesignate the lands to residential and open space. So the residential is the yellow shown, and then the open space is provided in green. In addition, the application includes a defined policy area for the site, which will establish the desired height and density for the development, while allowing for flexibility at the detailed design stage. And for a zoning bylaw amendment, we're requesting 3 different zones, which is the residential multiple dwelling second density RM2, which you're seeing in the purple and blue. The transition center commercial representing the high-rise blocks in the yellow and orange, and then the open space block, which is the Hotchkiss Creek stormwater management facilities and open space to the north here in green. Under each zone, there is site-specific provisions that will apply, and the existing curling club shown in pink here will remain in the general commercial C4 zone. In support of the subject applications, there were a number of technical reports, drawings, and documents provided. The subject slide highlights a few of the key studies completed by qualified professionals, including master plan and draft plan as shown in this presentation, urban design report and planning justification report, arborist assessment, the Hotchkiss Creek assessment, landscape concept plan, which you're seeing on the left portion of the slide here, high-rise architectural design drawings with the shadow study, townhouse architectural design drawings, functional servicing and stormwater management report, an environmental impact study, and a hydrogeological assessment, geotechnical traffic studies, environmental noise study, pedestrian level wind study, and phase 1 and 2 ESA studies as well. To provide an expedited policy review from provincial and city plans, growth is directed to the City of Barrie as it is a designated settlement area. And within these settlement areas, there's a direction for ambitious levels of development as it can be accommodated. To support complete and sustainable communities, a shift is directed to create a more urban city with higher densities, compact urban form, vibrant public realm, and a mix of land uses. Further, intensification and redevelopment is encouraged with emphasis placed on vacant and underutilized parcels such as the subject lands to support for more resourceful, sustainable, and economical developments that can be serviced by infrastructure. Logical growth is promoted to create opportunities for people to live, work, and play in their communities with a collective goal of creating new housing options and a more diverse range for residents. So this is essentially wrapped up by Bill 23 with a new push for 1.5 million new homes in the next 10 years. And in order to support these goals by the province and city for intensification and growth targets, we do require new developments to support these objectives. To conclude, the proposed development does provide a unique opportunity to accommodate significant growth that is planned for the city of Barrie with a diverse range of housing units and support of commercial retail. The applications would support a range of attainable housing units to aid in combating the housing deficiency within the city of Barrie. Mixed-use developments promote economical and sustainable growth, supporting complete communities with a vibrant public realm, attractive amenities, and employment opportunities for the area. Further development of the subject lands would create a gateway into the city where residents currently pass a vacant underutilized parcel. And to permit the proposed mixed-use development, amendments are required to the official plan and zoning bylaw. This concludes our presentation overviewing the development proposal and the associated applications. We will turn the meeting back over to the chair, but I'd be happy to answer any questions directed my way. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hunter. I will now call upon Celeste Gethsemane, Senior Planner, to provide an update on the status of the applications. There you go.
Sorry. Good evening, Chair Nixon, Mayor Nuttall, members of the Affordability Committee, and the public. As noted in the introduction to this to the presentation for this application, this is a second public meeting being held for the project, as the ownership of the properties has changed and a new concept has been submitted with revised applications for official plan and zoning bylaw amendments to facilitate the proposed developments. Further to Mr. Hunter's presentation and the memo provided to the Affordability Committee by staff, I will provide a brief update, in particular considering the gallery behind us, regarding the status of the applications. These applications are currently under review by planning staff and the city's technical review team. A detailed analysis of the applications will be provided at a later date when a staff report is brought forward for council's consideration. The primary planning and land use matters being considered at this time include, but are not limited to, intensification growth targets, the transition of built form, the mix of land use, the integration of the concept into the surrounding area, the potential for a new school site, details for stormwater management, the proposed daylighting of the Hotchkiss Creek feature, and downstream flood attenuation measures, as well as analysis and mitigation of potential site contamination and traffic. The staff report with respect to all of these applications are anticipated to come forward to Planning Committee later in 2023. And the submission material and key dates associated with the development of this site are available for viewing online on the city's proposed developments webpage under Ward 8. Alternatively, you can contact me directly. And that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions of clarification and to hear from members of the public. Thank you very much.
We have a few guests here tonight that would like to speak, and I will now invite Arnie Invison to come to the podium, and please state your address for the records. Thank you.
Oh, it's been a while since I've been here. Good evening, Chair Nixon, Mayor Nuttall, and members of council. I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to speak to you with regards to the latest proposal of the old Barrie Fairgrounds. I say latest because, as some of you may know, this is important and even historical piece of property, and it has some history. It has been a subject of much speculation and debate, going back as far as when Jeff Lehman was our ward councillor. When Osmington first purchased this property, we all gathered at a public meeting in the old Sticky Fingers Plaza by the curling club some 15 years ago or more. My wife Lynn and I purchased our first and only home on nearby Alfred Street, 43 Alfred, 37 years ago, this coming November 1st. We still have the same neighbors on both sides, but we have seen changes. Some of us old timers are still here, but lately we have seen an influx of young families move into the neighborhood, and the nearby playground at Blair Park is in full swing again, and yes, pun intended. We run the risk and have been called NIMBYs due to our opposition of this latest proposal, which is significantly far more impactful than any other previous proposal. In a perfect world, many of us would love to see the city purchase this land and make it a naturalized inner city park for residents, travelers passing through, walking trails, off-leash dog parks, picnic areas to reduce the carbon footprint. But that is unlikely to happen. Some would like to see the Y built there. Others have suggested an attempt be made again to lure a university campus. Some even an IKEA. So if this property is to be developed, then it has to be done in such a manner that it benefits residents that will live there and around it. The 2020 proposal by the previous owner, Ossington, had some merit. It included a percentage of affordable housing. This one doesn't, and I did not see that mentioned in the presentation. Housing for seniors and townhomes for families. It even had a green space and a park for kids to play. Those of us who attended that August 2020 public meeting offered input into ways to mitigate traffic, noise, and other infrastructure issues. Then suddenly the property sold in 2022 to Green Road Construction / Diagram Developments, who have now come in and basically stacked 9 high rises ranging from 12 to 35 stories high on top of what was previously proposed by the previous owners, inherently doubling the size. Developers in Barrie love to hide behind the provincial growth plan banner, believing it gives them carte blanche to do as they please and asking our municipal leaders to yield to it. Premier Ford's Bill 23 doesn't help either, but I'm trusting that our city council will not yield to this pressure and plan this out with some thought and insight. As I mentioned before, we are not anti-development for this area. We are for smart development. The current proposal calls for a modest estimation of 5,000 to 7,000 residents based on a modest 2.5 ratio. In the conversation with Kathy Colbat, she thinks that estimation is low, and I trust her judgment. That amount of people equates to the populations of Parry Sound, Shelburne, Goderich, or Perth being inserted into this footprint. Just that one space, looking at a size of city of those 4 cities roughly. Take into consideration proposal less than 1 kilometer away at Tiffin and Innisfil Street, where the old co-op used to be. There are 7 more high rises are proposed to go in that area. So that is a total of 16 high rises in less than a kilometer, plus townhomes. So no population sizes of Gravenhurst, Kenora, or Pembroke are all being inserted into an area less than a kilometer apart. I just made some notes here, so I'm going off script a little bit, but during the presentation, I noticed that there was no dedicated green space for this proposal, and it'll be, I think I'll get to it later. Sorry. Please consider that in the strain it would have on our infrastructure, on aging water and sewage lines from the 1950s, carbon footprint, the lack of schools, community resources, and the vehicle traffic and pedestrian traffic in this area and the safety around those issues. And I bring up that because Blair Park, which is our neighborhood park, all these people that live in this area would then traverse over to Blair Park, crossing Campbell and Del Marcus, and there are no sidewalks on Marcus, and they would have to cross over Campbell Street where there would be an influx of traffic. The gateway into the city at Essa and the 400 is one of the most congested areas in the city already. Inserting 5,000 to 7,000 residents in this small area so close to this major intersection would be a nightmare. The number one concern of most area residents is traffic. Access to development is faulty. One entrance off of Essa and a right turn only entrance exit off of Ann. That leaves vehicles racing through the Blair Park residential neighborhood with 5 roads, including crossroads like Marcus and Alfred Street, funneling down to Wood Street, a small short street like a multi-ball plinko or pinball game. This is an area that has sidewalks only on one side of the street, if any, or incomplete ones, or go past a playground where children and their families or seniors walk to and from. We speak from experience. When DeVilbiss was an operating factory where the stormwater plan is for those ponds, many of us lodged complaints with ownership of how employees race through our neighborhood at high rates of speed before, after shift, and on their lunch hour. The property is also contaminated with TCE, which is trichloroethylene, and I'm awaiting results on the extent of a plume on this property. We can all agree sprawl needs to stop. Out on Mapleview East, the sprawl is not only in full bloom, but spreading. It make more sense to build towers near the Barrie South GO station or way past South Hollyway where there is the room to build and to grow that way. We ask you to please give this fairgrounds proposal serious consideration as it will greatly affect a widespread area and their area residents. Remember, more is not necessarily better. We support housing in this area. It just has to be done with common sense, with no high rises. And with that, I have on the weekend and with the help of Brenda Tanner on Sunday, I walked around the neighborhood. I spoke to some neighbors and I would like to submit a petition of 70 area residents who signed a petition against high rises for this development. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Now I would like to call up Norman Speak on behalf of the Barrie Curling Club. Mr. Speak.
Mayor Nuttall, members of council, city staff. My name is Norman Speak. I'm a member of the board of directors of the Barrie Curling Club. I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak here today. I understand you've had the opportunity to read our detailed submission. So just as a reminder, we've been here since 1952. We're on leased land, and our landlord is the present applicant. We are the only curling club in Barrie. We're not for profit. We're membership driven, volunteer driven. And we're supported almost entirely by membership dues and such funds as can be raised by the membership. Membership is normally in the range of 700. That's generally accepted for a curling club of our size, 100 per sheet. Councillor Harvey has noted the representation behind me. Maybe a coincidence, maybe just because we think this is important. I'm warned that curling for tonight has been delayed so that they can attend this meeting. So please accept if there's a mass exodus, it's not because of me. The BCC at this time is not opposing development. We like to think we're a good corporate citizen, and we trust that before any development is approved, city council and staff will do their homework and ensure it is of benefit to the city of Barrie and fits within the overall plan. We're confident this can be worked out. But to be clear, the Barrie Curling Club will, underlined in bold, be adversely affected by this development or any development that goes along. We will, first and foremost, lose our entrance off of Essa Road. That's a given. We will lose, in accordance with the plan submitted now, a significant number of parking spaces required to conduct the club. And we will certainly lose any conveniently placed parking spaces oriented towards the front of the building. We are going to be surrounded by a massive development, and we're going to be impacted by the density of the population of that. It's a given. We will also impact the development. One might suggest that if one is going to do a traffic study of a curling club, July might not be the best month to choose. We're going to incur snow removal expenses. We will no longer have vacant land around us in which to push the snow. It's going to have to be trucked out. We're going to incur landscaping expenses as a consequence of the requirement for green space. That's a given. And right now, we don't know where this money is coming from. Now, this is not of our making, and it's not new. As it's been mentioned before, this has been going on for a while. We dealt with this in 2007, and we've been dealing with it off and on for the last 4 years. We, the Barrie Curling Club, the city of Barrie, and the applicant developer are well aware of what we need. This does not seem to be reflected in the plans that we have seen today. There is, of course, a legal issue in that this development cannot proceed without an amendment to the Barrie Curling Club lease, in that Street A, coming off of Essa, runs right through the most significant block of parking that we have. To be short, this development cannot proceed without that amendment. Now, one would think that one would sort out the legal issues before proposing a plan, but maybe that's just me. After 4 years of periodic discussion with both Osmington and the applicant developer, we have been unable to come to an agreement. Very little was said about the Barrie Curling Club in the proposal by the planners. That seems to be the case and seems to have been the case for the last 4 years. We're getting a little tired of it, frankly. But it would be a mistake to think that this is purely a legal issue. This is, in fact, a community issue. Consider 700 curlers. Now, that's where we need to be. We're not quite there yet because we're still suffering from COVID, but we will get there. And we have been there in the past. Our demographic ranges from 7 to 90, maybe more, but nobody's admitting it. And we provide recreation and exercise throughout this demographic, particularly seniors. And this is a group that, you could argue is underrepresented in this regard in the city. We provide a winter activity when many tend to isolate, particularly seniors. And they are 40% of our club membership. Consider mental health. Think of it that way. The city of Barrie doesn't offer curling an opportunity for anyone in the city, nor does the city of Barrie have a facility which would allow them to provide that. And this is a city with, as we've heard before tonight, impressive growth potential. So we're the only curling opportunity in Barrie. I'm going to keep emphasizing that because that's the point. We believe all parties to this application, the city, the developer, and the Barrie Curling Club, need to recognize their civic and community responsibilities with respect to community curling. This is important. This is Canada. And we need to work together at the earliest stages of this application. Now, the Barrie Curling Club is not a rich club. What we are is an old club. Much of the physical plant dates to 1952. And while over the last 4 years, I will say, we have been working to upgrade the facilities to ensure it remains fit for purpose, we've got a long way to go. We anticipate the expenditure of some $70,000 capital per year to continue to upgrade the facilities. And at this point, I would like to make recognition and thank the city for their grant, which enables us to replace the roof this year. We're getting a little tired of the drips on the ice. Our recent budgeting exercise projects a deficit this year of some $20,000. Obviously, this can't continue if we're to remain a viable entity. And the way that stops is by getting the numbers back up to the $700 person range. And we're getting there. We believe this could be done over the next couple of years, but it can't be done unless we have the facilities and resources to support that growth. And that includes parking and access for emergency and maintenance services. We are, we believe, a contributing community corporation. We conduct bonspiels, some at the provincial level, which bring money into the city of Barrie. This is of value, and the city of Barrie has recognized this by their application to host the Canadian Brier. Unsuccessful, unfortunately. Future applications will require a vibrant and active curling community. not only for credibility in the application, but for the conduct of the bonspiel itself, because that's how it happens, volunteers. We're the only place that, frankly, that can come from. The BCC believes that this is a critical juncture in its life, and the BCC also believes that it's critical for the city of Barrie. A city of this size, without a curling club and a curling community in Canada, would be a rarity indeed. A travesty, perhaps. The BCC believes or would like to think that the applicant developer also recognizes its community and civic responsibilities. What is now required is for the parties to recognize the importance of this issue and the fact that we have only one opportunity to get this right. And that's now, before any other discussions take place. This can only happen if the parties gather to approach and finalize this issue as equally interested participants as a necessary prerequisite to the consideration of this application at all. In summation, Barrie Curling Club, and I'm going to read this so I get it right. The Barrie Curling Club requests that staff and council not make decisions on the planning matters of these applications until such time as a site design has been completed for the Barrie Curling Club. A site design agreed to by all parties, BCC, the developer, and the city of Barrie. And that design provides for a functional, safe, and satisfactory design for the long-term viability of the Barrie Curling Club, as it is one of a kind in Barrie. This, we believe, is eminently logical. It seems to us that this is the only way to proceed. We thank you for allowing us this opportunity, and we thank you in advance for the consideration of this matter.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
That concludes the update from City Hall. Thank you for watching.